Okay, imagine this. You're 9 months pregnant and
Wow.
bouncing along in a covered wagon.
Yeah.
You're facing this scorching sun, relentless dust,
Yeah.
and the ever-present fear of disease.
Right.
That was the reality for so many women on the Oregon Trail, and that's what we're doing today.
Yeah.
A deep dive into the history of this iconic American migration.
It's one of those stories, that really captures the imagination.
It does.
A journey just fraught with hardship and loss, but also
Of course.
driven by hope and opportunity.
Yeah.
And we're going to explore what were those forces that propelled all these people westward and the lives of those who dared to make the trek.
You've provided us with just a treasure trove of sources.
It's amazing how much is out there.
Firsthand accounts, historical records.
Yeah.
I mean, there's even a podcast dedicated to the Oregon Trail now.
There is. It's amazing.
And let me tell you, I mean, there are some real surprises in here. We're going to learn why some pioneers thought this journey was easier than a turnpike.
Oh, wow.
Um, why one group killed all their dogs, and what 5440 or fight really means.
That's a great one.
So much to uncover here.
It's really fascinating how the Oregon Trail story unfolds against a backdrop of some significant political and economic upheaval.
Yeah.
And I think a good place to start would be setting the stage in the 1830s, a time of a lot of transition and turmoil.
Okay, so let's unpack this. What was happening in America that would make people want to risk, I mean, everything on such a perilous journey?
Well, for one, the economy was in shambles.
Big
The
side.
panic of 1837 hit hard,
Oh yeah.
and a lot of families were struggling to make ends meet.
Yeah, so you're facing economic ruin. I mean, the jobs are scarce,
Right.
and then you hear all these tales of fertile land
Right.
and a fresh start out west.
Yeah.
It's easy to see why people were tempted.
It makes a lot of sense, and this is where the idea of manifest destiny comes into play.
Uh-huh.
It was this belief that westward expansion was America's God-given right,
Wow.
almost like a divine mission to spread across the continent.
So it wasn't just about, economic opportunity.
Oh, yeah.
It was a matter of national pride and destiny.
Yeah, absolutely. And this idea really took hold in the 1830s and 40s,
Okay.
and it really fueled this drive to settle Oregon country.
When you say Oregon country,
Yeah.
what exactly are we talking about geographically?
So Oregon country was this vast and undefined territory, much larger than the present-day state of Oregon.
Okay.
It encompassed parts of what are now Washington, Idaho, Wyoming, Montana,
Wow.
and even British Columbia and Canada.
That's a huge chunk of land.
It's a big area.
How did the U.S. even get a claim to this area in the first place?
Well, it started with exploration and fur trading.
Okay.
So early in the 1800s, John Jacob Astor,
Mhm.
a very prominent businessman, established a fur trading post near the mouth of the Columbia River.
Yeah.
And while his venture ultimately failed, it planted the seeds for American interest in the region.
I see.
So it's interesting to think about how that one failure led to so much more.
It seems like the discovery of the South Pass was also a crucial turning point.
Absolutely.
What was so special about this pass?
Well, the South Pass was a game changer.
Okay.
It's a relatively low and wide gap in the Rocky Mountains,
Okay.
and it made wagon travel between the East and Oregon country considerably easier.
Wow.
Before that, crossing the Rockies was a truly daunting task.
So it's like finding a secret passage through this formidable mountain range.
Exactly.
And suddenly the journey west seemed a little less impossible.
Yeah, a little bit more realistic.
Yeah.
And this discovery coincided with a period of joint control of Oregon country between the United States and Great Britain.
Really?
Yeah, they agreed to share the territory in 1818.
Joint control. That sounds like a recipe for tension and conflict.
You're absolutely right. There was this constant undercurrent of competition between the two nations,
Yeah.
each vying for ultimate control of this valuable territory.
Now, before the mass migration began,
Yeah.
there were some intrepid souls who paved the way, the early trailblazers.
Right.
And our sources suggest that missionaries played a surprisingly significant role.
They did.
Yeah.
Inspired by reports of Native Americans seeking Christianity,
Okay.
Protestant missionaries began heading west in the 1830s.
Mm-hmm.
One key figure was Jason Lee.
Okay.
He was a Methodist missionary who established the first permanent American settlement in the Willamette Valley in 1834.
So even before the gold rush,
Yeah.
and that romanticized image of cowboys and pioneers,
Right.
it was missionaries laying the groundwork for American settlement in Oregon.
Precisely. And their journeys weren't easy.
I can imagine.
We have firsthand accounts from Narcissa Whitman,
Uh-huh.
a missionary wife, describing the challenges they faced.
Yeah.
What's really interesting is that she sometimes compared the journey favorably to travel back east,
Really?
even saying it was easier than a turnpike.
Easier than a turnpike.
I know.
I'm finding that hard to believe,
It's a head scratcher.
given what we know about the harsh conditions of the trail.
Yeah.
What could have possibly been easier about it?
Well, it speaks to the varying perceptions and experiences on the trail.
Yeah.
For some, the open road and the sense of adventure
Okay.
might have outweighed the hardships,
I see.
especially compared to the more established but often muddy and crowded roads back east.
Yeah.
But regardless of her perspective,
Uh-huh.
her letters,
Yeah.
along with those of other missionaries,
Okay.
really helped to paint a picture of what the journey entailed
Right.
and encouraged others to follow.
Our sources also mention a group called the Oregon Dragoons.
Oh, yeah.
Who were they, and what role did they play in this early exploration of the West?
So the Oregon Dragoons were a group of 17 men from Peoria, Illinois,
Okay.
who set out for Oregon in 1838.
Go.
Their motivations were a curious mix of patriotism and get this, a dream of pickling salmon.
Pickled salmon.
Pickled salmon, that's right.
That's a rather specific
It is.
and, dare I say, unusual goal.
Unusual, but hey,
Were they successful?
not exactly. Their journey was a comedy of errors,
Oh, no.
filled with bickering, poor planning,
Yeah.
and a general lack of essential skills.
So they were more like the Oregon debacles than dragoons.
You could say that.
Their story sounds like a cautionary tale.
Indeed, it really highlights the importance of preparation,
Really?
resourcefulness,
Yeah.
and a healthy dose of realism when embarking on such a challenging journey.
Yeah.
Not everyone who set out for Oregon was cut out for the hardships that lay ahead.
So we have missionaries establishing settlements,
Right.
Fur traders exploring the terrain, and even some enthusiastic but ill-prepared patriots trying their luck.
Yeah, that's right.
What happens next in this story of westward expansion?
Well, by the early 1840s, all the ingredients for a mass migration were in place.
Yeah.
Economic hardship in the East,
Right.
the allure of Oregon and this
Yeah.
growing fervor of manifest destiny,
Right.
all converged to create a very powerful push westward.
Uh-huh.
And this leads us to 1843,
Okay.
a pivotal year in the history of the Oregon Trail.
1843, the year of the Great Migration.
That's right.
What made this event so significant?
The Great Migration marked a turning point.
Okay.
It was the first large-scale wagon train to successfully complete the journey to Oregon.
Wow.
Over 800 pioneers,
Wow.
led by John Gatt,
Okay.
set out from Missouri,
Yeah.
demonstrating that families with all their belongings
Right.
could make the arduous trek.
We have a source here that paints a vivid picture of a typical day on the trail, drawn from the journal of Jesse Applegate, a pioneer who made the journey in 1843.
Oh, wow.
Early starts,
Yeah,
circling the wagons for protection,
right.
gathering buffalo chips for fuel.
Wow.
I mean, it sounds incredibly grueling.
It was undoubtedly challenging, a test of endurance, unlike anything most of these pioneers had ever experienced.
Right.
But it also fostered this unique sense of community and resilience.
Yeah.
People relied on each other for survival, and
Yeah.
and the shared hardships forged lasting bonds.
One can only imagine the sense of camaraderie.
Oh, yeah.
And the stories that were shared around those campfires.
Absolutely, these weren't just names on a page.
Yeah.
They were real people,
Right.
facing incredible challenges
Yeah.
and finding strength in one another.
It's as we delve deeper into their stories, it's like we're traveling alongside them,
I know. Yeah.
experiencing the grandeur of the landscape and the hardships they endured.
It's incredible. Passing landmarks like Courthouse Rock,
Yeah.
Jail Rock, Independence Rock.
Those are great names.
These names evoke the spirit of the trail.
They do. And each landmark marked a stage in the journey.
Yeah.
A measure of progress
Okay.
and a reminder of the challenges that still lay ahead.
Right.
And one of the most crucial points on the trail was Fort Hall,
Okay.
a trading post located in present-day Idaho.
Why was Fort Hall such a a crucial point for the pioneers.
Well, Fort Hall was a decision point.
Okay.
It was a crossroads
Uh-huh.
where pioneers had to choose their path.
Okay.
They could continue on to Oregon, their original destination,
Yeah.
or they could divert south towards California,
Okay.
which was starting to gain attention,
Right.
especially with whispers of gold.
Ah, California.
Yeah,
That adds a whole new layer of complexity and intrigue to the story.
absolutely. And the choices made at Fort Hall would shape the destinies of individuals and families.
Yeah. And ultimately influence the development of the American West.
Wow.
But we'll delve into those choices and their consequences a bit later.
That's a perfect place to pause for now.
Oh, yeah.
We'll be back in a moment to continue our journey along the Oregon Trail.
Sounds good. It's fascinating to consider the weight of that decision at Fort Hall, you know.
Yeah.
For those who chose Oregon, I mean, the journey was far from over.
Right.
They still faced treacherous mountains, raging rivers,
Yeah.
and the looming threat of winter.
It's hard to imagine having come so far,
I know.
only to face even more daunting challenges.
Right, exactly. And one particularly harrowing section of the trail was the Dalles,
Okay.
located along the Columbia River in present-day Oregon.
Our sources mentioned the Dalles as a particularly treacherous spot.
It was.
What made it so dangerous?
Well, the Dalles presented a formidable obstacle.
Okay.
The Columbia River narrows significantly at this point,
Uh-huh.
creating powerful rapids and treacherous currents.
Right.
Pioneers had a difficult choice to make.
Yeah.
They could attempt to raft down the river, risking whirlpools and waterfalls.
Yeah.
Or they could try this difficult and often perilous overland route.
It sounds like a true test of nerve and ingenuity.
It was.
How did they even begin to make such a decision?
Well, you can imagine the anxiety and debate that must have taken place at the Dalles.
Right.
Some pioneers, desperate to reach their destination, you know, they were willing to risk the river,
Yeah.
while others, perhaps with families and belongings to protect, opted for that safer,
Right.
albeit more arduous overland route.
Did most pioneers have any experience navigating such treacherous waters?
Many did not. Keep in mind, these were, you know, farmers, shopkeepers,
Oh.
families from all walks of life,
Okay.
not seasoned river guides.
Right.
So they relied on whatever information they could gather from those who had gone before.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it was a leap of faith.
And as you mentioned, the river claimed many lives.
Sadly, yes.
Yeah.
The Dalles became a watery graveyard for many pioneers
It's sad.
who succumbed to the unforgiving power of the Columbia.
Right.
Their stories serve as a stark reminder of the fragility of life on the trail.
Our sources highlight the story of the 1843 Great Migration
Right.
and how they defied expectations by successfully bringing their wagons all the way to the Dalles.
Yeah.
How did they manage to accomplish this feat?
It was a remarkable achievement.
It is, you know.
John Gaunt, the leader of the migration,
Yeah.
was determined to prove that families could make the entire journey with their wagons intact.
Wow.
They faced incredible hardships,
Right.
but their success inspired those who came after them.
It must have been an incredible sight to see those wagon trains rolling into Oregon.
Oh, I bet.
A testament to human resilience and the lure of a new life.
Absolutely. And as more and more people headed west, the Oregon Trail became a symbol of American expansion and the pursuit of opportunity,
Oh, yeah.
even as it exposed the complexities and contradictions of that expansion.
Speaking of complexities,
Yeah.
you mentioned earlier the impact of this migration on Native Americans.
Right.
Can you elaborate on that?
Of course.
All right.
The arrival of settlers in ever-increasing numbers
Right.
disrupted traditional ways of life for Native American tribes.
Yeah.
It led to displacement, conflicts over resources,
Yeah.
and the spread of diseases that decimated Native populations.
One of the most tragic events in this history is the Whitman Mission Massacre in 1847.
Yeah, a very dark chapter.
Can you tell us more about that?
The Whitman Massacre was a horrific event that
Mhm.
really reflects the tensions and violence
Right.
that often accompanied westward expansion.
Yeah.
Marcus and Narcissa Whitman,
Right.
the missionaries we discussed earlier, had established a mission among the Cayuse Indians in present-day Washington state.
Okay.
However, relations between the settlers and the Cayuse deteriorated,
Yeah.
fueled by misunderstandings, cultural clashes,
Right.
and the devastating impact of measles,
Right.
which ravaged the native population.
It seems like the measles epidemic was a significant factor in the escalating tensions.
It was, the Cayuse believed,
Uh-huh.
with some justification,
Right.
that the Whitmans were partly responsible for the epidemic.
I see.
And this fueled their anger and resentment.
Yeah.
And in November 1847, a group of Cayuse attacked the mission,
Uh-huh.
killing the Whitmans and several others.
What a terrible tragedy.
It was.
It's a stark reminder that this story isn't just about, adventure and opportunity,
Right.
but also about the darker consequences of westward expansion and the displacement of indigenous peoples.
Absolutely. It's a crucial part of the story.
Yeah.
One that we need to acknowledge and understand.
Right.
The Oregon Trail was a path to new beginnings for many,
Right.
but for Native Americans, it often represented loss,
Yeah.
upheaval,
Right.
and a tragic disruption of their way of life.
Our research also revealed a surprising and disturbing aspect of Oregon's history,
Yeah.
racial exclusion,
Right.
particularly towards African Americans.
Yeah.
This seems at odds with the image of Oregon as a land of freedom and opportunity.
It is. It's a contradiction that highlights the complex and often hypocritical nature of American ideals during this period.
Yeah.
Despite being a free territory,
Mhm.
Oregon enacted laws prohibiting black settlers from owning property
Really?
or even residing within its borders.
That's shocking.
It is.
What were the motivations behind these exclusionary laws?
Well, there were a number of factors at play.
Okay.
Some white settlers feared economic competition from black laborers,
Right.
while others simply held racist beliefs about black inferiority and the desire to maintain a white-dominated society.
I see.
These sentiments were deeply entrenched, and they
Mhm.
manifested in discriminatory laws that aimed to keep Oregon a white haven.
This exclusionary mindset seems to contradict the very ideals of freedom and opportunity
It does.
that drew so many to Oregon.
It really does. The concept of manifest destiny,
Right.
while appealing to many,
Uh-huh.
often masked underlying prejudices and inequalities.
Right.
The opportunities that Oregon offered were not extended equally to all.
Right.
And the experiences of those who were excluded from those opportunities are an
Yeah.
essential part of the story.
This deep dive has really opened my eyes to the complexities of the Oregon Trail and its legacy.
Me too.
It's not just a historical event, it's a story that continues to resonate today.
It really does. The themes of migration, opportunity, conflict,
Yeah.
identity
Yeah.
are all relevant to contemporary discussions about our nation's past and present. Right.
The Oregon Trail, while seemingly a distant chapter in history,
Mm-hmm.
offers valuable lessons about ambition,
Yeah.
resilience, and the
Yeah.
complexities of building a nation.
As we wrap up this part of our exploration,
Yeah.
I'm struck by the sheer scale of the Oregon Trail migration.
It's hard to fathom.
I mean, hundreds of thousands of people made this incredible journey,
Right.
leaving behind everything they knew in search of something better.
Yeah.
What can we learn from their stories?
Well, I think their stories remind us of the human capacity for risk-taking,
Mm-hmm.
resilience,
Yeah.
and the pursuit of dreams.
Right.
They also challenge us to confront the complexities of our history
Right.
and to acknowledge the costs and consequences of westward expansion,
Right.
both for those who embarked on the journey and for those who are already here.
It's a story that invites us to reflect on our own values.
And to consider how we might apply the lessons of the past to the challenges of the present.
Indeed, and perhaps most importantly, it reminds us that the story of the Oregon Trail is not just about the past.
Right.
It's about understanding our present
Mhm.
and shaping a more just and equitable future.
So we've covered a lot of ground in our exploration of the Oregon Trail, from its early trailblazers to
Yeah.
the mass migrations and the impact on Native Americans and African Americans.
Yeah, it's been quite a journey.
It has been. It has been, as we reflect on this journey, what stands out to you?
For me, it's the enduring legacy of the Oregon Trail.
Yeah.
It wasn't just a physical path.
Okay.
It was a cultural and social phenomenon that shaped the American West and continues to influence our understanding of our nation's history.
You're right. The Oregon Trail represents so much more than just a historical event.
Yeah.
It embodies the spirit of adventure,
Right.
the pursuit of opportunity,
Uh-huh.
and the challenges of building a nation.
And it reminds us that progress often comes at a cost.
Right.
A cost that was borne not only by the pioneers themselves,
Yeah.
but also by the indigenous people whose lands and ways of life were irrevocably altered by their arrival.
One thing that truly surprised me was Oregon's exclusionary laws targeting African Americans.
It's a tough one to reconcile.
It is. It's a stark reminder that the ideals of freedom and opportunity were not equally shared,
Right.
and that the legacy of racism and inequality continues to shape our nation.
It's a sobering reminder that the path to progress is rarely straightforward,
Yeah.
and that the pursuit of a more just and equitable society requires ongoing vigilance and a willingness to confront uncomfortable truths about our past.
The stories we've uncovered have challenged my own romanticized notions of the Oregon Trail.
Me too.
It's not just a tale of adventure and triumph. It's a complex and often tragic story of expansion, displacement, and the clash of cultures.
And it raises important questions about the legacy of westward expansion,
Right.
the meaning of manifest destiny,
Sure.
and the impact of these historical events on our national identity.
So what can we learn from this deep dive into the Oregon Trail?
I think it encourages us to engage in critical reflection about our past,
Yeah.
to acknowledge both the triumphs and the tragedies,
Right.
and to consider how those lessons might inform our present and shape a more just and equitable future.
It reminds us that the stories we tell about ourselves matter,
Right.
and that a deeper understanding of our history can lead to a more nuanced and compassionate view of the present.
Absolutely, and it challenges us to be mindful of the ongoing legacies
Yeah.
of expansion,
Yeah.
displacement, and
Yeah.
inequality,
Yeah.
as we strive to create a more inclusive and just society for all.
If this deep dive into the Oregon Trail has sparked your curiosity, be sure to subscribe to the deep dive
Yes.
so you don't miss future episodes where we'll explore other captivating stories and uncover hidden gems of knowledge.
We're always eager to dive deeper into the topics that matter most to you.
Right.
So let us know what resonated with you about this story. What questions do you still have? We're
Yeah.
all on this journey of discovery together.
Thanks for joining us on the deep dive.
Thanks for having me.
Until next time, keep exploring.